Katabasis, a novel by R.F Kuang, #1, New York Times bestselling author of Babel, is dedicated to Bennett, brilliant, beloved. Chapter 1 opens with the epigraph, "For I deem that the true votary of philosophy is likely to be misunderstood by other men. They do not perceive that he is always pursuing death and dying. And if this be so, and he has had the desire of death all his life long, why, when his time comes, should he repine at that which he has been always pursuing and desiring?" Plato, Phaedo. The narrative begins in Cambridge Michaelmas term, October, where the wind bit and the sun hid. On the first day of class, Alice Law, instead of lecturing, set out to rescue her advisor's soul from the 8 courts of hell. Professor Jacob Grimes's dreadful death was, from a certain point of view, her fault, and since she desperately needed him alive to chair her committee and secure her future in analytic magic, she felt morally obligated and self-interestedly compelled to beg King Yama for his life back. Alice had become a self-taught expert in tartarology, reading every monograph and correspondence on the journey, noting that the few credible accounts, like those by Dante, Eliot, Orpheus, and Aeneas, were unreliable or fragmented. But her funding clock and looming progress review meant she couldn't wait decades pouring through archives. She needed a Cambridge degree, Professor Grimes's golden letter, and she had to go to hell today. After meticulously checking her pentagram, the Sue's basic transportative pentagram, with Satia's modifications, and finalizing the closing chalk stroke, she took a deep breath and stepped inside, knowing the price was her remaining lifespan, perhaps 30 years, which she happily considered trivial compared to a life of irrelevance. Just before she could begin the incantation, Peter Murdoch, the irritatingly brilliant darling of the department whom Alice couldn't stand, arrived, immediately identified the pentagram's complex structure, and rudely etched alterations into her work, declaring, "One becomes 2. Abracadabra." Now there's room, before stating he was coming with her because 2 minds are better than 1 in the metaphysically tricky courts of hell. Alice, already prepared with a perpetual flask, lembas bread, Barkle's chalk, knives, and a laminated binder of conflicting maps, was incensed by Peter's patronizing nature and his relentless, guileless superiority. But the mention of a possible obstruction, Cerberus, which she had no solution for, as the key book, Van Dyck's Dante and the Literal Inferno, was missing, forced her to concede. Realizing Peter had been hoarding the necessary research for months, checking out the books she needed, she reluctantly agreed to let him join, hoping to deny him credit if they succeeded. When Peter reminded her of the cost, Alice affirmed her commitment, stating, "Half my remaining lifespan. I want to be a magician. It's all I've ever wanted." Peter, equally cryptic and insistent, simply replied, I need to do this. I must." They settled on a division of the incantation, Peter on Latin, Alice on Greek and Chinese, and began their chant. The narrative then reveals the cause of Professor Grimes's death, a routine experiment based on set theory that was no more dangerous than riding a bike, provided one double-checked the pentagrams. Grimes, who had long delegated the grunt work of arithmetic and translations to his graduate students, failed to do his own due diligence. The fatal error lay in the glaring red flags of the pentagram, gaps, misspelled words, and unclosed parentheses, mistakes Alice, his underpaid, overworked, and sleep-deprived graduate student, had missed because she was in no sound state of mind, shaking from caffeine and feeling like she might dissolve, yet desperate to assist in the lab despite the work being beneath her and co-authorship out of the question.